Hello, people. You're welcome to Pro Masterclass. My name is Tola, T.A. Alabi. And in today's session, I'm going to be talking on a topic called Never Forget Your Travels. Never forget your travels. And for those people that might not be used to the word travels, it just means never forget your challenges or the hard times in your life and in your business. You see, as a business, um, you would go through very hard times. That is the truth. You will go through hard times in business, and I'm very used to saying this, that business is made up of ups and downs, just like life is made up of ups and downs. So whether as a business or as a human being, you would go through hard times. A lot of times we see hard times as things we want to do away with, get out of very quickly. That's how we see hard times. We see it as something that we don't want to spend too much time in. You want to get out of it as soon as possible. But the truth is, when you're going through hard times, that is when you should get out your pen and paper. That's when you start to document what you're going through. It's very important that you document your travels. We need to develop that culture of documenting our travels, whether as people or as businesses. It's very important, and I'll tell you why. You see, because of social media culture, we've gotten very used to documenting our successes. Social media has put us in a position where we feel the only things worth documenting are victories. So we always document what we see as the best parts of our lives. So when things are going good, we take a photo. When we are in a fancy restaurant eating good food, you take a photo of the food. See, nobody takes photo of food they don't like. You understand? When you're dressed in your best attire, you take a photo and you put it up on the gram. It's natural. When you are employed to that job, that seems like a high profile job, you take a photo with the logo in the reception and you put it up on LinkedIn. You see, that's the culture that we are used to, that we are taught to propagate. People don't take a photo in the midst of their unemployment. And but that is when you really need to document. That is when you really need to document. Because you see, I really believe that true success stories are told through the eyes of deep travails. Those are the true inspiring stories. When you talk about the process means when you talk about the success from the beginning. And the beginning, most times, of the process is challenging, are the travels. But we cut that out a lot. And it gives us a skewed perspective on life and gives people a skewed perspective on what achieving real success is. So you see a lot of people, young people today, that are eager for success but are very averse and very not willing to go through travails. And to be honest, it's almost impossible. So today I want to talk about if you really want to help the world, if you really want to help people achieve success, then you need to start documenting your travels. Document your travels as a business person, as a person. Document your travels. You'll be doing the world a lot of good, and you'll be doing yourself a lot of good. We must learn to document our travels. Very important. One thing documenting your travels does for you as a person is that it keeps you humble. It keeps you humble. It makes you remember where you are coming from, and that keeps you humble. You see, there's a culture. I don't know whether it started in America, but I watch it in movies and stuff like that. It's an American culture, I think so. But you see, there's a culture that some business people have, that they frame the first dollar they made in their business. The first dollar. The first dollar they make in their business, they frame it and they put it in their office. When they do that, you see, it reminds them of where they are coming from. Framing their first dollar bill reminds them of where they are coming from, and it keeps them humble. It keeps them humble. You see, framing your first dollar bill is more significant than framing your first $1 million check. Do you understand? Because the dollar bill tells you of your travel. It tells you where you are coming from, and it keeps you humble, and it keeps you grateful, even when you make that first $1 million. That is why it's important to document your travels, document your challenges. You see, these are not times that you should hide your story of challenges. You shouldn't hide them. Document them. Write it down in a journal. Take a photo. Record a video. Because the truth is that even you are likely to forget. You are likely to forget. You see, I've met a couple of people who have gone through tremendous health challenges. I mean, really tremendous health challenges. And in the health challenges, they are making promises to themselves of what they would do if they get out of this, what they would do if they got better. And you would realize that these people get better, and 2-3 years later, they are back to how they were living before the challenge. And they are not doing any of the things that they promised they would do if they got healed from those challenges, those health challenges. And that's because a lot of them, when they're in the health challenge, did not document their health challenge. They have no journal writing of how much pain they were in. They have no videos showing how much pain they were in, how much discomfort they were in. And because they were in that situation, you see, they thought they would remember because it felt so painful at the time. But the truth is, you never remember just trusting your brain. You remember by documenting. And that's what keeps you humble. You see, you want to remember that pain. And then when you remember that pain, you remember how much grateful you are for coming out of that pain. And that is what drives you to go and do the things that you promised yourself to do. That's what drives you to say, I wouldn't go back to this lifestyle that put me in this pain. Because we always forget. It's part of our coping mechanism as human beings. And it's also part of our shortcomings as human beings. The fact that we forget. We forget where we are coming from. So the importance of documenting your travels cannot be overemphasized. You see, it's a big problem we have in this country, Nigeria, because I'm from Nigeria. One of the biggest problems is that we are too quick to document our successes and too eager to erase our travels, to whitewash them. Too quick to celebrate our successes and too eager to whitewash and clean off and cover up our travels. And that puts us in a position where we hardly make progress. You see, when you look at countries that have been through difficult travels, a lot of them do not go back to the same struggles or the same challenges and fight the same battles when they choose to document. And when I say document, the more concrete the documentation is, the more you learn from it. And that's why when you see countries like the US, you see, when you go to the US, there's a memorial for the 9/11 Memorial Museum, where you can see the names and see photos of people that died. Why do they have those things there? So that people can remember that this happened here and it shouldn't happen again. So you see, when people remember those things, they do not waver on all those restrictions they put on travel, because you have things that remind you of what happened several years ago. In Germany, you have the Holocaust Museum, because they realized that, look, during the time of the Second World War, there was the Holocaust. It was a terrible thing. Millions of Jews died. But you know what? If they didn't put structures in place to document that challenge, that terrible, ugly time in history, it would have happened again. As terrible as the Holocaust was, it would have been forgotten if people did not build a memorial to this effect. If you come down to Africa and even look at Rwanda, you see Rwanda is doing something incredible right now, where they've built a museum for the genocide that happened in Rwanda several years ago. I'm highly convinced that if they keep that museum open, that genocide in that form would not happen again. It wouldn't happen again because there's a memorial of people. You can see bones, you can see skulls, you can see faces and names of people, and you can hear stories. These things are documented. The travels are documented. And that's part of the problem we have here in Nigeria. You see, one of the most harrowing things to happen in Nigeria was the Biafra War. Now, that happened way before I was born. But you see, there really has been nothing put in place. Nothing put in place to remind us of that travel. Nothing. It was said that over 2 million people died, I think, if not more than that. But nothing. I can't go anywhere and see the effect of the Biafran War and see names and see photos and see bones. You see, and that's why we are still fighting. People are still fighting for Biafra. People are still fighting. We are still fighting that same war. We are still fighting that same war because there is no documentation of the travel from either side. So you see, there is a forgetfulness going on to what it cost and what it did and what was lost. The same thing happened when you realize that there was a shooting at the toll gate last year, 2020, during the NSAS protest. A lot of young people were killed, and you can see that there is nothing documenting that, no memorial that people can go and see. Nothing is being built. What you see is that the toll gate is being built back again, open again, and the memorial we have is word of mouth. And that's the weakest memorial. And that's why I truly believe it will happen again. If there's nothing built, it will happen again. Just a matter of time. People would forget. There would be a Pharaoh that knows no Joseph. It was said in the Bible. You see, Joseph did a lot when he was governor in Egypt. But you see, there was nothing. It wasn't well documented in Egypt. And they said there came a Pharaoh that knew no Joseph. And he hated the Israelites. Because he felt, why are we helping these people? Because he didn't know. You see, he didn't remember the travels of the famine. You understand? It wasn't well documented. And that's the problem. You see, when you don't document your travels, you go back to doing the same thing. What is not documented gets forgotten. And what is forgotten gets repeated. And that there is the danger of social media, where people are encouraged to document their successes over their travels. Then people learn very little because they don't get the full story. So today, I want to encourage you, if you're going through a hard time, God is giving you a tool to document, so that when the success comes, you can tell your success story from the perspective of your travel. And you can tell it from a humble and from a grateful heart. So if you're going through a really difficult time right now, get out a journal. Start a journal and write what it feels like. Write what it feels like. Write what you're going through. Write down about times you cried at night. Write it down because you want to remember. You actually want to remember. You want to remember so that you can tell the story properly and you can give people the right perspective of what it takes to be successful. And that there would encourage somebody 5-10 years time who's also crying at that beginning stage and would realize that, look, there's nothing really weird about my situation. Nothing weird about me going through this financial dip. Nothing weird about it because I read it. I watched the video. I heard the audio from this person. And I realized that our journeys are pretty much the same. Different names, different locations, but the emotions, the ups and downs are the same. And they get more encouragement from, if this person can go through it, I can go through it too. So today I want to encourage us to learn to share our travels. Learn to document your travels.